Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying, Why not today? I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, face their fears, and embrace the possibility of today. From entrepreneurs to artists, dreamers to doers, we explore the moments when they said, Enough waiting, why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys and inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, Why not today? And remember, we're just one decision away from changing our life. And so, welcome to the Why Not Today podcast again. And really, why not today? I've kind of evolving as we're going. We're almost at 3 years. And I really feel like why not today is a movement and a movement to encourage people to live their life with courage and to pursue their dreams. And so I love all the stories that I've heard, the story behind the story, the why not today moments. And so my guest today is Thomas. Did you go by Tom?
Tom is good.
Tom Sweitzer. And I heard about you about a year ago at the Social Collective's tea. And then I had several people say, oh my gosh, you have to have Tom on your podcast. And then we happened to be at a gala about a month ago, and you walked up with your co-founder, and I'm like, oh, and we tried to connect and we couldn't. And so I'm so excited to have you on. And I love the connections. Another good friend of mine, Kelly Goosens now, I know her, Kelly Barr, you worked with, and just it's fun to see all the connections in the community. And I'm excited to have you on. You've got some amazing Why Not Today moments and stories of courage. And I love what you're doing. And it aligns with my heart with working with special needs and my sister Amanda, which we've got to get in the fold of you. So Tom, introduce yourself, a little about you, not your whole courage journey, not your whole, just who you are and a fun fact. And then we'll get into the courage.
Leslie, thank you for having me. I'm very honored. And so I'm a music therapist. I'm the co-founder of A Place to Be in Loudoun County, Virginia. We are 15 years old. We're a nonprofit organization helping the world find community, belonging, and hope, working with people with and without disabilities. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a lover of life. Fun fact about me, about my family. Maybe I am related to a very large Italian family that owns an amazing amusement park outside of Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And also we have a spaghetti sauce that is international called Del Grosso sauce or La Familia. So I always find that's a fun fact.
Oh, that's a fun fact. Do you have the family recipe that you share? Or?
I do.
Okay,
But
I might need that.
I think around here you can get it at Wegmans, Martin's, and probably Walmart, I think. Harris Teeter was holding it for a while. But yeah, so that's fun. Because you're going to learn all the other personal things about me. So
Right. I love that. Well, I might have to look for the sauce.
yeah.
And I did not know the Italian background. And we are doing, for the first time, my sister's hosting Christmas Eve, and we're doing 7 fishes.
Oh,
Which is, I guess, an Italian thing. So
you will smell for 7 days after.
no, well, I'm not. We're doing it at her house. So yay.
Yeah, that's the thing in our family too. We always were like, whoever hosts that night, it's like, let them host it. And it's such a good night. I love the 7 fishes.
Well, you might have to, when we're done, you might have to give me some suggestions and ideas. So she just sent out an invite. I'm not sure what we're doing, but I think it'll be fun.
Yeah,
New traditions.
You want to bring it an outfit that you can put over an outfit, and then you take that off.
Okay. Good tips. So love that. And I love that you said community involvement and hope.
Community belonging and hope.
Belonging, even better. And that's really what I am about and love all those things. So, all right. What does courage mean to you, Tom?
Courage to me means, it means vulnerability. It means that you're not afraid to reach deep inside of what is vulnerable inside of yourself, where your darkest thoughts, your dreams, the part of yourself that you have some fear about, where loneliness resides, where there's a hole, where you dig inside of that part of yourself to make a difference in the world for others.
I
And,
love that.
well, and I think anybody that has, the people I admire very much in my life who have had courage, so many people, um, you're faced with some sort of trauma. And we both, I'm sure you and I both have tons of friends, either cancer survivors or something is going on or a car wreck. And our life is so fragile right now, our lives, and there's so much chaos going on that I think it's the best time to be courageous, and it's a really hard time to be courageous. And so I learned courage a long time ago when I learned that I would have to dig inside to to really find who I am, and then to see what I could dig up, what I could excavate from myself to go out and help other people. That's my that's sort of the definition I see as
Wow.
courage.
And we can just stop now because that's enough.
Thank
Oh my
you.
goodness, I love that. And so true. And I was just listening to a podcast and I said, talking about loneliness. And that's just something that has hit my heart so hard, that people are so lonely and our world is upside down. And we are just talking about a situation. We're not going to go into the situation going on in the world right now, because hopefully by the time somebody listens to this, or 20 years from now, when you listen to this, it's a
Yes,
non-factor. So we're not going into it. But I think you said, like, this world is upside down.
it is upside down, and I loneliness is obviously we're in a crisis. And
Yes.
that's so when you our mission here at A Place to Be, community, belonging, and hope. Belonging, that middle word is so important. And there are studies that have been done now on, what is belonging, how a person's life is forever changed when they belong to something. And at the end of the day, Leslie, that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to wake up in the morning and belong to something. And that is something we are extremely we're very passionate about here, that everybody that walks through our doors here at A Place to Be feels like they belong.
Well, and I
And
think the whole belonging thing, it's the connections too. Like, if you can find that mutual connection, that was something my dad was brilliant about. Like,
mm,
getting to know people, asking questions, like, can you find that mutual connection? Like, I went immediately when we first met, you told me you grew up in Altoona. I'm like, oh, we drove past Altoona. I stopped at McDonald's, or, nothing more than drive through, but immediately I felt connected to you
hopefully,
because I knew.
hopefully not McDonald's.
Well, forget that. It's in the news.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'd stop there on the way to go skiing. But that was immediate connection.
Yeah, you went to Blue Knob, right? That's
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Did you ski there?
Yeah. Well, no, I was not a skier. I went there
Okay.
with I went there with friends to watch them ski.
Okay. So yeah, our good
But
friends of our family owned the mountain.
okay.
So
But that's exactly, I mean, connection is it, right? And
it
that is
is. And
that is
you
what we
can,
are missing.
right. And if you can find that connection, you went to the same school, even if it was 20, 100 years apart, you find
Right.
that mutual connection. And I think once you can find that, you build that trust with people.
Totally.
And you feel like you belong, which is so
Exactly.
important. And
Something
yeah,
that connects, and that's the thing that we're having a problem with in the world right now is
right,
how do you connect to other people? And people are shut down. A lot of people are shut down. A lot of people don't know how to connect. And when you work with the populations we work with, which you know very well, if you're in a minority, if you're in the world of disability, connections are hard. Try being in a wheelchair and how isolated you feel most of your day anyway,
right.
or somebody with autism that has trouble communicating. So what we do here is the moment you walk in, we want you to feel like, without the religion, you're at church. You're here as a community. You're
Right.
here as a gathering place, and that's what we hopefully do for all of our clients here and all the performers we have here at A Place to Be.
And music's such an important thing. I met somebody the other night at an event and he walked up to me, introduced himself, says, so what do you do for fun? And not, what do you do to make money? He says, I don't care about that. I'm like, well, what I do for fun is actually a business, when I talked about the podcast. And he said, the reason I asked that question is, he said, a couple of years ago, I was in ICU dying. And I had
Mm,
to call my daughters and tell them no, I would probably never see him again. And
mm.
obviously still on this side of the earth and doing great. But he said, ever since that moment, he's like, I've been passionate about asking questions, getting people to know people. And we talked about the music. And he
Mm.
said that when people that he know, unfortunately, are dying, cancer or something, he creates a
Yeah.
music playlist for them of their favorite music and
That's-
shares it with them. He said he had a good friend passing away and he was pretty unconscious and he played their favorite song that they had as friends. And he said he opened his eyes. And so music is so powerful. So I want to get into the whole
Mhm.
place to be and how that came about, but I want to go way back. You
Mhm.
told me your first why not today moment, and it goes back to the starfish I always wear. And you never know who that one person that's going to make a difference, that's going to take your life completely pivotal. And you told me the story, and I can remember it vividly when you told me where I was sitting. So it was a why not today moment for me. So share that first why not today moment that changed the trajectory of your life.
Sure. Born and raised in Altoona, Pennsylvania in the 70s. Very gray, dismal time in Pennsylvania in Altoona at that point. I lived in a very crowded neighborhood. My mom was very ill. She was obese and had diabetes and a very severe heart condition. My dad was paranoid schizophrenic. I was an only child, and my household was pretty much hell. Uh, Although my mom made sure to make beautiful moments for me, and I was loved. I was loved by the rest of my family. I was loved by the neighbors. But around 8 years old, I always fascinated about the church that was across the street from my house. And one of my father being schizophrenic, one of his triggers was religion, which is a very common thing for paranoid schizophrenia. He had complete conversations with God, with the devil. Um, but I would hear this beautiful music pouring out of these stained glass windows across the street at the church. And you would hear the organ, you'd hear every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, all week long, I'd hear the bells. And at that point in my life, I slept in the living room with my mom. I slept on one couch, she slept on another. My couch was up against a big window. That's where I felt safest. My mom felt I was safe. My dad was also abusive. And at night, I would pull back the curtains and I would stare across the street at that church and I would pray. And as I say in my show, I used to pray to, I thought it was a radio tower because remember, radio was really big, 70s and
Yeah.
80s. And I thought the steeple of the church was a radio tower. And I thought to myself, if I live that close to a radio tower, I must have amazing reception. So I thought that God, God would hear my prayers a little bit
Love
louder.
that thought process.
Yeah. One Sunday morning, I couldn't take my house hold anymore. I couldn't take the screaming. I couldn't take the abuse. And I was in my pajamas and I heard the music from across the street and I ran out as fast as I could across the street. I went up to the steps. And at the top of the steps, this part, all of this is actually how it happened. And this next part, sometimes people hear this next part and they think, oh, no way. I also think there's no way this happened, but it did. I got up to the top of the steps, the big red doors open, and there stands this Sunday school teacher. She has a three-piece skirt suit and she had a big, tall beehive and these little cat glasses. And she asked me, what took you so long to cross the street? We've been waiting for you.
Wow.
And to this
Gives me
day,
chills.
I don't know. I don't know if she saw my face in the window throughout the years, but her name was Erdine Grissinger. She died in her
Is she,
mid-90s.
I was going to say, is she still alive?
No, she passed away, I think it was probably about 10 years ago, but I
Okay.
did get to see her before she passed away.
Wow.
And there was it. I walked into her Sunday school room and there was a piano. The first piano I ever touched, and she sat beside me and it's kind of cool. I have one here. And I played. And all she had to do, and she played a song for me. And every time she'd play a song, she'd end the song with what she called a grand finale. So it could even be Amazing Grace. It would end like this.
Love it. And if you're listening and not watching, he looks like somebody with the Grams and Alley who's playing.
And then I stayed there with her for about 8 years, every Sunday. I never missed. She taught me how to play the piano. She taught me how to sing. She, without knowing it, was a music therapist. She was music therapy to me. And so, yeah, that's when my life was saved. That's why not today? And I mean, that 8-year-old who I was like, why not today? I'm going to cross the street and follow the music. And
That's amazing.
yeah,
Gives
so
me chills
that's,
to hear that story. So that started trajectory. Your life obviously turned around.
yeah.
Um, she made such a difference. And you also shared how she had food for you.
Oh yeah. So she caught on fast, that I didn't really have a great home to go back to. So when Sunday school was over about 11:45, she would pull out her lunch and she would like by mistake she packed two sandwiches and she would say like, "Oh my, look at this. I packed two sandwiches. You should stay here." She would ask me to water her plants, anything to get me to stay longer. And
Right.
I would stay all afternoon. I mean, there were times I don't know, that when I got older, I became head of the youth choir. I did shows. So I had a reason to be at church from 9 to 9. Like there were nights I didn't go home until about 8 or 9, and I never had to come home, which,
Right.
almost brings me to tears to think about how many kids, even children today, they'll do anything to stay out of their home because there's
So
something going.
sad.
Yeah. And if she didn't give me that refuge, if she didn't give me the literal sanctuary, I know I would not be here. I would not be in my own sanctuary. Here I sit
Right.
at a place to be, while right across the hallway there are 2 or 3 children having music therapy. And that I do like every morning I wake up and I think, it's about connecting our stories. Leslie, you said about connecting, right? Like how do we
Right.
make of our lives and ourselves? Well, people like storytellers, people like people that have a story, but everybody does. But we have
Yes.
to be awake and open. It took me years, it took me into my late 20s to understand the importance of how my life was saved. Then when you find that moment when somebody opens a door for you, when somebody gives you something that propels you into the next chapter of your life, our duty is to then help somebody else. There was a pastor in Upperville, Virginia. So I went to college. I did go to college. I went to Shenandoah University to be an actor. I went into music theater, but then I started to teach in Middleburg, Virginia, at a private school, and that's another God wink. How did I
Right.
find that job? Just happened to be a kid that was in a camp that I was teaching, and the headmaster came by and saw me and said, "Hey, do you want to be in my office tomorrow for an interview?" But there was a pastor, I've now lived in Middleburg for 31 years. This pastor passed right before I moved in. And all I heard, Leslie, the first year I started to teach in Middleburg was, "Oh my, you remind us of this pastor." His name was Dick Peard. "Oh, you're so much like Dick Peard." Well, I found out I was honored to be uh, compared because this man was an amazing man. But he said one statement in a graduation speech that he gave that I use all the time. "When you find your place in this world, help others find theirs."
Okay. Repeat that. When you find your place in this world.
When you find your place in this world, help others find theirs. Those two sentences boil everything down to why we're here. Now, and some of us, I'm very, although I grew up very poor, there was abuse in my house. I'm going to tell you, I was still privileged. I was privileged because I had love around me. I
Right.
had teachers. I had mentors. I had the church. I had God. And I believe in everything. But whatever God I was told, I kind of created in my head. I had to create him. When I went home because you have to have something to hold on to. And it was great to hear the church's version of God. But as I grew older, I say this in my book, God grew with me. So my definition when I was a child was sort of, it's what you're taught, what the Bible
Right.
teaches you, or what somebody preaches. But as I got older, he kind of like went along with me. He he kind of adapted because this, all I think of God is love. That's it. And so,
Right.
and the love guided me to this day. And so that when I started teaching in Middleburg, that saying, just those two sentences, when you find yourself in this world, help others find theirs, that was the end all for me. And that's hence where some of my service came from. And I've always wanted to help children. This is something I think I told you about, Leslie, too. And I don't share this one all the time, but I'm a very proud person to share this now, is I was also in Easter Seals until I was 7. So I was in a classroom full of people that are diagnosed disabled, and I found a certificate a schooling certificate in a shoebox that I put away a long time ago.
Oh,
And it said it was for Easter seals. And it said I was diagnosed with MR, which is mental retardation, because they didn't have, I've always known I'm probably somewhere on the spectrum, somewhere, but I couldn't say my S's, my T's, my R's, or my W's, and my last name was Sweitzer. So they didn't know where to put me. And plus, this energy you're seeing right now, I had that energy as like a
yeah.
5-year-old. And I wanted to create and draw and paint and dance and sing. By second grade, Leslie, my teachers understood me so well. You know, it's the old-fashioned school, 1978, whatever that was.
Mhm.
You know, big old brick building, cement hallways. My second grade teacher was so brilliant. She knew I had ADD and ADHD. I don't know what they called it back then. And
Right.
she knew I loved to dance. So my mom bought me a pair of tap shoes. So between classes, she would let me get my tap shoes on and I would just tap myself up and down that long hallway for like 3 minutes. And then she'd be like, Tommy, come on back in. So that's
Wow.
what I mean. Like, I didn't have a privileged life with money. I didn't have a home that was safe. I was also a fat little kid, made fun of. But I had privilege of love. And I think that that is when we're looking for the resilience, right? And I know we've lost a lot of the power of resilience in our world too.
Mhm.
Um, but some people don't have that much love around them. Some
Yeah.
people aren't understood or hugged. You know, we come into this place, a place to be all the time, and it's a massive hug. Not everybody has that. And so that is bringing us to today. That is where Kim Tapper, my brilliant co-founder, and she has her own story, which is amazing, of how she got
We
here.
need to have her on the podcast as
Oh,
well.
yeah, and we have two totally different stories, but we ended up together. We're also we knew at one time we were like only 2% of men and women who run an organization together, and we're not married.
Wow.
It's quite peculiar. And
Yeah.
we've been best friends for 22 years, and we finish each other's sentences. And but we both knew that the world needed more love. So music therapy is what I went into. She went into psychology and life coaching, and we started to see the same clients. They go see her, they go see me. I write a song, we perform it. And, you know, our first year, Leslie, was 2010. And between the two of us, we had about 23 clients. We kind of looked
So
over the,
let's talk. I mean, we've talked around a place to be. So I know there was a moment, another why not say moment where you started it, but talk about how you started it and exactly what a place to be does and your
yeah,
mission. And it is a nonprofit and
yeah,
what you're doing within. I know you're changing lives and I know just talking about all the things and I can relate the connection. My sister Amanda, who has Down syndrome, when she
yes,
was born in 82, people asked my parents if they were going to keep her because at
God,
that point they institutionalized many kids with Down syndrome. That's what they knew.
yeah, right,
And so my parents are like, no, we actually have a letter and stories my dad shared about the day she was born. And people are like, do you want to be in the hospital away from the normal mothers? And they said Amanda was going to be special. My dad's like, I have 5 other kids that are special. And so
yeah,
it's funny. I was just
mm,
messaging with a friend the other day and Amanda was in the car and sent a message and my friend's like, you know, Amanda just makes me smile and Amanda makes everybody smile. And the joy Amanda brings, and I just went to her workplace and her old boss was there and she's like, I miss Amanda. Can I call her to just hang out with me and do? I'm like, yes, she would love that. But yeah, so
Wow.
We just need that love. And all right, so
Yeah.
that was a tangent. So tell me, how did a place to be come about?
And even
And
when I met her that quickly that night when I met your sister, you can,
oh yeah, you met her. I forgot.
is it authenticity? Uh, any of us that are blessed and honored enough to live or live with any of these individuals who maybe have autism, Down syndrome,
Right.
and then there are many hidden disabilities. The resilience they have, the authenticity they have, we need to learn from them.
Yes. And they don't
So
have all the baggage. Like one time I was with a friend and we were walking around the lake with Amanda, and Amanda's like, "Oh, Captain flipped over the sailboat and it went all the way over." Like this was 20 some years ago. I'm like,
how,
how, I mean, the things she remembers. And my friend's like, she doesn't have she's not worried about where her meal's coming from. She's not worried. I mean, she does worry about some things, but she doesn't
that,
have all the crap in her head that we do.
yeah,
And she
exactly.
can just be who she is
Yeah.
and be honest about who she is and her feelings. Like when
Wow.
my dad passed away, she was sad, and and even to this day, it's like, I miss my dad. I'm sad. And she says the things that we might not be vulnerable enough to say.
Yeah, I would say that and Down syndrome can be sometimes, and autism, obviously. There's a portal that some of these different populations live in that are very blunt, truthful, don't have a lot of veneer, and not a lot of screen,
Yeah,
Uh,
Amanda will call you out. Oh, Catherine drank too much last night. She's hungover. Don't, and she's watching and she's paying attention on social media too. She knows everything about everybody.
oh my God.
Just kind of fun.
It gives her some fun things to do.
Yes. All right. So place to be. What was that why not today moment, and how did that
Yes. So how it came about is for 14 years I was teaching at the Hill School in Middleburg, Virginia. But I was giving voice lessons, acting lessons, and I started to work with Arts for All, which was called Very Special Arts, where Kelly and I have worked together.
Mhm.
And that was my first real involved moment where I got to work with people with disabilities. My first show was Cinderella. This was all started in our area by an amazing woman by the name of Alice Power, and she wanted a new director. I came in, and to be really honest with you, very unlike my days when I was 6 or 7 years old in Easter Seals, I
Right.
hadn't spent a lot of time with people with disabilities until this came about. That night, that cast had approximately 45 individuals, maybe 10, 15 wheelchairs in front of me. I was overwhelmed. I did not know what to do. And then what you do, why not today? Dive in.
Yep.
And I can remember, Leslie, it was at the Hill School, we're in the theater area. I welcomed everybody, and also one of my first times seeing parents with hand cloths wiping up their children's saliva, children bent over, hand flapping, screaming. And I didn't have a lot of training. I went into the bathroom and I looked at myself and I thought, who do you think you are? Because for a moment I thought, I'm an actor. I'm into theater. I want to go to Broadway someday.
Right.
And who do you think you are? And I can remember what I was wearing even. I was wearing a white sweater. I looked in
Why
the
not today moment?
yeah, and that was it. Then I went back and I took over. And so that started that. And then about 4 years later, I was giving a voice lesson to a young man who was 13. His father had taken his life just weeks before.
Mhm.
The kid comes into a voice lesson. He asks me to start to help him write a song that he gave me a poem about his dad. He said, "Could you help me write a song?" I said, "Sure." That 1/2 hour voice lesson went on for 2 hours. That night, so I knew something was happening. Like I was like, "Oh my God, this is where I do my best," right? Then that night, I was in Shenandoah University. They have a professional summer series of music
Right.
theater. And I played Horton the elephant there
Mhm.
many times. So that night I was playing Horton, and I'm a big, I love Shenandoah Summer Music Theater, and I help out wherever I can. But that night I was on a net. If you remember the story of Horton, he tries to hatch an egg up on a
Right.
nest. I'm in an elephant outfit. I'm on a nest. I'm singing a beautiful song called Sala Salou, but it hits me. And I'm watching hundreds of people who pay to watch me sing as an elephant. And I thought about that boy all during the show. I could not get the kid out of my head. I went home and I thought, I'm a music therapist. That's it. And then I went back to school that next term. And, it's a 4-year program. We are trained just like a regular therapist. We take anatomy. It's almost like the bar exam. When you're done, you have to get accreditation and certified. And at that time, right before that, I met Kim Tapper. And Kim was running another nonprofit in DC at the time, and she came to dance at the Hill School. I needed a choreographer. We talked, we talked. We were like, oh my God, I feel like we knew each other our whole lives.
Wow.
So then after that night of hoarding the elephant, I went back to school. But as soon as I graduated, she and I opened up a place to be in 2010 and started out with 23 kids between the two of us. And today we sit here, it's 275 families per week,
Wow.
14 full-time music therapists. And we are a nonprofit, and I unfortunately spend a lot of my time raising funds because we have never turned a child away because of financial reasons in 15 years.
Wow.
Between Kim and I, we both have, between the two of us, this is financial aid. We have to raise close to $1 million a year because we are paying certified therapists, and we have
Right.
14 working that are living in Loudoun County. So
Yeah.
we're doing our best, and everybody that works here is working because of love.
Yeah.
They're not working here because they have great salaries. They're working here because right before I walked in here, there's a young man here that is nonverbal, but he's not nonverbal when he goes in there with one of our music therapists and sings. So
Oh,
that is
what a
how,
difference you're making. I love it. And I
well,
want
I'm
to
humbled.
get involved. We want to get Amanda involved. We want to spread the word and get you support. And I know we're recording this and it's coming out in December of 2024, but there's a couple things coming up. So if somebody listens to it real time,
Yep.
like what's going on in December of 2024 with the place to be, and December 2025, it'll probably be happening too. And there's other things to get involved, but I thought timing wise, let's share a
Thank
little. I
you.
can share it in the show notes too. Like
Thanks,
what's going on.
Leslie. Okay, so the biggest one, we have Charlie Brown Christmas. That's this weekend. So that's very soon. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can go to our website, a place to be VA, like Virginia.org, a place to be VA.org. But the thing I would invite everybody to is this is my Christmas. It's December 22nd, Sunday, December 22nd at 2 o'clock. It's at Salamander Resort. The resort is nice enough, kind enough to give us the entire ballroom. We usually have about 300 to 400 people show up, 500 at one year. And it is our concert. And this year, the theme is vintage variety show. If you remember the Andy Williams shows from the 60s, 70s, and it stars our children. And
Oh,
we
wow.
keep it about 85 minutes. So you can get in at 2 o'clock and you can get in your car before it gets dark. We hand out tissues on your way in. It's a very happy tears, very moving experience. Cost is nothing. We will ask you if you want to become a donor. We have many ways you can do that. A one-time gift. You can become part of our Fermata Circle, which is like a monthly sustainer. That can even be at $10. Everything goes to programming and financial aid. But you don't pay
Wow.
a thing. You don't pay anything to come to the December 22nd. I would just say if you want to come, get there at 1:30 for a good seat. And yeah, just be ready
All
to have
right. So can you get tickets or you just show up?
just show up. Just
Okay.
show up.
I think that might be a gift to my mother. So she won't listen to the podcast.
That,
So I'm like, just show up. I love it. And
Leslie, that's a great idea. I think that is very cool. I think a lot of people bring people back every year. It is like much better than the Hallmark Channel. I was going to say the Hallmark Channel. It's like the real Hallmark being,
well,
right in front of you.
but I created, I had somebody on the podcast a couple months ago and she talked about a local bucket list. And
Mm,
I've always been all about bucket lists, but I've always done a holiday bucket list. And I
mm.
have my holiday bucket list of places. And one of the things I think is Middleburg is magical at Christmas. It is a Hallmark town. kind of thing. And so one of the things was to go there, and I like to do things with my mom and sister. So I think we might just have to come
I
and
think
just
that's where you're
surprise her,
going.
and definitely want to get Amanda involved and other people involved.
And next year, Leslie, now that we know each other and we're friends, my house is on the parade route and I have
Okay.
parking. So
All right.
you can come
Well,
next
I
year.
will be there because I saw it the other day. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have gone to that.
Yeah, you can park in my yard. You have to get there early and you just watch it from the
Okay.
yard.
Well, I love that. All right. So we are a little longer, but this is so good. Before we go, though, talk about your book. I know I heard about it when I first heard of you when you were
Yep.
signing copies, but tell me about it and how we find it. And
Yeah, so there's two things connected there. I was lucky enough to have a one-man show off Broadway last year in 2023 called 20 Seconds. So the book is called 20 Seconds. It's only privately. It's not published quite yet. We're
okay.
waiting because the hope right now, the off-Broadway show 20 Seconds is being made into a Broadway type musical
That's
with
fun.
9 people. Yeah, it's being produced. One of our producers is Joey Parnes, who is one from the original Jersey Boys and many others. I have two amazing producers here, Ben Graham, Frank Baltz, and somebody that some people would know around here is Teresa Wheeler. She's one of the biggest philanthropists here in Loudoun County, and
Okay.
she helped get this show off the ground. And the show
Wow.
is about how music saved my life. So
Okay.
by spring of 2025, it will be sold on Amazon, and hopefully we will be going to publishing.
Okay.
So.
So how do I get a copy? Do I have to wait till spring of
No,
2025?
I will give
Okay.
you a copy. And
All right.
if anybody really wants it, uh this is how I keep my Facebook as my blog because I didn't want to so
You
you
do
can
great things on Facebook, by the way.
thank you. Thomas Sweitzer, not
Right.
Tom. Thomas Sweitzer, and you can go right to my Facebook. I keep all place to be our
And we'll share all your contact information in show notes.
okay. Great. But yeah, and then hopefully in a theater somewhere next fall, you'll see the show and can get your book there too.
Oh, cool. So fun. So yeah, we'll definitely share all your contact. And
Okay.
when the book comes out officially, we'll have you
Yes,
back on the podcast.
that would be great.
And one of the things that I've talked about here a couple times, and I mentioned you, and it's kind of a God wink passion project to me, is to really have Why Not Today be a movement that changes people's life. And I read something the other day, and there's actually a phrase, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but talks about how the clothes we wear, if it's got words on it, how we can live our life that way, and how it makes a difference in our life to give us courage to, it was some organization that has t-shirts that talk
That
about,
it's just not words,
yeah,
right?
no, but so I really feel like Why Not Today is a movement and a message that we need to give people courage to do the
Love
things.
it. I
And
will
so
be
one
part
of
of
my
it.
passions is to partner with nonprofits, that when you buy a Why Not Today swag, percentage goes to a nonprofit. So we're putting that together, and we'll
Great.
definitely partner with
Yeah.
you guys to raise some funds in the
Wonderful.
future.
Wonderful.
So how would you encourage somebody else to say why not today, to be brave, to be courageous, to do the thing, to walk across the street to the church?
I think going back to the beginning to bookend our conversation, right? Courage, right? Where do you find it? It takes a big breath in, it takes some silence, and you have to go down here. And inside there are where all of your childhood dreams are still alive, where all of your passions, the things that earlier, the tingles you get, the chills up your spine, it all lives there.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing to do is make sure that you give yourself a space and time to feel. Because we are moving so fast, especially when it comes to, around these seasonal times,
Yeah.
that we don't stop and feel. And as a music therapist, I would tell you that sometimes it's silence, and sometimes, like you were talking about the playlist, it's putting on a song and saying, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm not going to do anything but listen to this song. There you will find your courage.
Yeah, so true. And we don't give ourselves enough. And my word last year was space, to give myself more space. And like my ideas come when I'm going for a walk, when I'm in the shower, when I get in my car and listen to music. And that's because during the day, I fill my space with so many things and we
Yeah.
don't take the time. And going back
I-
to your childhood dream, the childhood dream I remember is to be financially in a place that I can give back and volunteer.
I'm
And
with
where
you.
am I going?
I'm with you.
Kind of. So connecting back to my dad, I think he definitely the belonging part, as I said, asking, connecting, finding people. Obviously, Amanda, he was a proponent of anybody with disabilities with, getting Amanda in schools that wasn't being bussed off and making Amanda was just like anybody else.
Yeah.
I think you're doing that as well. And
Mm.
just, he started a group home and just being able to give back. And then he was an only child like you. And so he surrounded himself with other people to fill his life and always did. And our house was always full of a million people because nobody was excluded.
Well, I think that you creating what you're creating with this takes all of those pieces of his legacy and then makes it your legacy.
Yes.
It keeps going, keeps rolling.
Yeah. And you know what? Every episode I do, I was telling somebody the other day that like sometimes it's not easy. And the podcast isn't really a financial thing yet.
No.
But I just keep doing it consistently and I'm not missing. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just following the path that God is putting in front of me, the people I'm supposed to be meeting. And we tried to connect months ago and somebody got COVID and it wasn't the right time. And so just
Oh,
following.
it's always the right time. And I felt the same way, Leslie, about my one-man show, right? So I'm 52. So it took me to 51 to get to Broadway, right? I never even tried. Like
Right.
that whole world up there is a world to itself. But what you just said about your podcast took 7 years to get the show there. I never dreamt it really would be going to off Broadway. I had no idea that would be, on 42nd Street for 6 weeks
Wow.
doing my mission. But what I did was just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going,
Yep.
because
Don't give up.
don't give up. Just keep going. And whatever ends up, at least you're doing what you love.
Yep.
Well, it's
And when,
amazing.
and when those coincidence happens and those God winks and those things happen,
Grab it.
it's because you are living your life in alignment to your values. And I'll never forget exactly where I was standing in that Dulles Marriott when I met you officially.
Hey,
It's going to be a why not today moment in my life.
And then your sweet sister. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we have a lot to do together, and I just appreciate
Yes,
you
we're not
hearing
done.
the story and hearing other people's stories too. Thank you for
Yep.
putting that out into the world.
Yeah, well, thank you for being a guest. Honored to have you on here. And we'll share all your contact in the show notes. And if anybody's listening real time and you want to go to the concert with me on the 22nd, I'm going. So we'll figure out a way. So,
See you
and
guys there.
share the mission of Why Not Today, everybody listening. It's a movement. Be courageous, do the things that you love, your little childhood dreams, the things that keep you up. And thank you everybody for enjoying or joining us for this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dreams, and make a difference. So why not today? And make sure you're subscribing, liking, sharing, telling other people about the Why Not Today message. You can find everything you want about Why Not Today at whynottodaypodcast.com. We're on all the social, and let's make a movement. And remember, why not today? Thanks again, Tom.
Thank you,
Bye.
Leslie. Bye.